after our important modules topic. Um, One of the things which I would like to go towards is an SAP's journey from R2 to S4 HANA. Now, definitely in our group, there would be people who knows many of the things, and probably for some of you guys, this may be uh, repeat information because you know the SAP's journey, how SAP turned from R2 to the S4 HANA. But some other team members, it would be complete new, and I would like to cover that particular part. So, how do I cover? Let me start with making some lines here so we can clearly compare the evolution. So what I'm now doing is I'm dividing my screen in four parts. SAP evolved from the R2 to the R3, later moved to ECC, and most latest situation, what we are talking as a system is S4 HANA. And if we want to learn SAP, definitely one of the things which we should always consider is to um, understand the evolution of the tool. Probably no one will ask you the question, but it is the right way that we understand the history and how we reached from one stage to the another stage. And that will give you an insight on the thought process which SAP has instilled till now. Okay, so very early stage. And then now I'm talking about, I think 70s, somewhere around 70s, I think I'm talking about, where SAP was very initially started. Uh, but I don't want to give you guys any wrong information. So let me quickly verify. Yes, some
1972.
exactly. Good. So we have someone who knows really the like exact point. So yeah, 70s, but now we have exact date 1972. 1972. SAP started, and SAP started with the first system, which we traditionally call now the R2. Why we call it R2? The two is this two is there for the two-tier system, two-tier system. But we should understand when we say two-tier system, what is the two-tier system? So generally, we like from a systematic point of view, we all use Amazon, right? Amazon is a very good example, when you have to explain certain things. So when we use an application of Amazon on our mobile or on our web version and so on and so forth, we call it uh, a presentation layer or presentation system. Presentation system. So this is a system, or this is the layer which interacts with the user upfront. So anything which interacts with the user upfront is called a presentation layer or presentation system, right? But that presentation system's general task is we are providing information that I want to buy a refrigerator, which are the options available, and system comes back and gives me the Amazon system comes back and gives me the information. Okay, there are like 200 type of companies, different models available, this is my price. So I ask a question to system gave me the answer, this interaction happened, that is a presentation server. Now the point comes, from where system could provide me the answer? Is it available on web and it just did the search on the web and provided me the answer? No. What it did is, when I ask a question as part of the presentation server that I want to buy a refrigerator, system actually used that like a query, and it approach to its own database system. That's called database layer as well. When I use word system or layer, it's consider it as an interchangeable. So presentation system talk by this query to the database system, because this is the place where Amazon has every product which is available. It's in its own warehouse, or it is available as part of their vendors. They have every information available at the database level. They exactly know the price, they exactly know their stock, they exactly know the terms and conditions of those vendors for the selling or a dispatch, or what is the probable dispatch time based on your location. They know all these things, and that information is stored somehow. So when I provide an information and it gets fetched from the database system and gives me the result back, this is only two layers are talking to each other. This is how the initial system was. Now, my comparison with Amazon is entirely wrong to explain you for the R2 system. In really, Amazon is working on way more advanced concept. However, this was the simplest example for you to understand what is the presentation layer, what is the database layer. You are providing an question or a query or an information to system, and system goes to its database, brings the information and gives you the result. That is presentation layer talking to the database layer, R2. Now that sounds pretty straightforward, right? But then why SAP had to come to the R3 concept? Why they had to evolve to the R3 system? This system was a first system, and trust me, it was decent enough system so SAP could survive and move to the next level. Otherwise, this company would have died down early enough. But that did not happen. Though there were some limitations. What were those limitations? So let's think of those things. One of the thing is user interface. Your user interface was a limitation because initial user interface in the 70s, even though the IT had started picking up and so on and so forth, but it was the languages, the versions and things were not that advanced. And I would not say that today it is very advanced. I would not say that, but it was really in a primitive level. Many of the people who had probably started their career in very early stage, they would even refer that interface as a black and white screen. So like I did got a chance to talk to very early stage people who had started that career in R2, and I was pretty fascinated to talk to them because pretty intelligent people. And one of the first statement they had mentioned was, yeah, it was a black and white screen. And many of us would have experienced if we have done the course for the MS DOS and so on and so forth, where we just directly interact with the database system. Second thing, a third thing, sorry, a basic performance. Now the question is, why basic performance? From the top of the mind, it looks pretty nice, right? You are giving a query to your system, system comes back, gives you the response. You are entering a transaction, system goes back, updates the transaction information in the database system. Later you are fetching the information, again system pulls it. Why performance issue? Yes, performance issue because whenever any system interacts with the database directly for query by query, every transactional level, you are really utilizing almost all of your system resources in just fetching and updating the database, fetching information from the database, and again going back and updating that information. And now multiply this with so many users. And nowadays, if you will deal with the big companies, they have to deal with the multi-country situation, multi-country system, and thousands of users at the same point of time. Just take an example of Procter and Gamble, Unilever, Siemens. Take an example of even United Nations. United Nations is also using the SAP in all their peacekeeping mission and so on and so forth. So it cannot survive. So it was not an expandable or like manageable performance. And one another limitation which was there was an integration with other system. As I mentioned, you may would like to talk to other systems, right? You may want an integration. You may have two SAP systems because of many reasons, right? Though then you want that data to be interfaced between that two systems, or you may have some external system whose help you are taking for the probably transportation planning, probably warehouse management, or your vendor has complete different system and you want to interact. In the R2 time, this was not possible. And these were the typical reasons or limitations which forced SAP from moving from the R2 to the R3. Now the word R3 already says that. 3, it's a 3-tier system. So what did SAP added additionally in the R3? SAP actually added the third layer. So I will start with the same. Now we all know what is presentation layer. We all know what is database layer. But SAP came back with a middle layer, which is called an application layer.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
So I will take a simple example. If you say that a plus b square equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square, right? Simple mathematical formula. So you have to write, like user is providing you only information. What is a equal to x, a equal to some number, b equal to some number, and now you want system to do the calculation. Now I have used an example of very simple mathematical formula, but system is system. You have to write it down, right? That if this is requested, that means you are going to do a square plus 2ab plus b square. Then you will find out the doing the calculation, you will find out the result and show it to the guy who has put the query. This calculation logic, this coding or this programming logic, which is required where you did that mathematical activity on the information available to derive the final result, that shifted from the database layer to the application layer. So in earlier system, if you will say system has to do the calculation a plus b square equal to a square plus 2ab b square, that would happen in the database layer at this layer. So system will fetch the information, do the calculation there itself, and then just come back and provide you the answer. Now we changed the concept. We made it more efficient. If you will ask any question, any input, and that has no need for going till the database, system will not go. You can do all those initial analysis at the middle level, which is known the application layer. And this improved the SAP's performance at that point of time so much. This was a pretty big step for the ERP world at that point of time. Also, they did additional improvement. For example, when we do the query, system will go to the database, pull all the information and store it on a temporary basis in the middle layer. So you don't have to again and again and again and again go to the database and keep fetching the information always freshly. They started using the buffer concept and so on and so forth, memory concept more and more. We don't have to worry too much. It's just a technical information, but good to know. Third layer was implemented, application layer, which is a middle layer. Now, the performance improvement between these two was pretty high, very high level performance. Now, I would not compare this performance with the S4 HANA's performance, but it was pretty high level performance compared to the R2. And second thing they introduced here, you remember I said black screen? They introduced here GUI, SAP GUI. If you are working on SAP, you have to download the SAP GUI to use the SAP. That's called graphical user interface. You don't have to remember the name, guys. Don't worry about it. Just listen and you can forget, that's totally fine, but you should remember GUI. That's a interface which like presentation layer, but they came back with an interface which is called graphical user interface. And this was again a very good improvement for the users. Third thing they did is they overcome the limitation of integration with other system. SAP started and came back with the concept of IDOC and RFC. Now, any ERP system, this is one of the criteria which would make sure that will your ERP system be successful or not. And that criteria comes if your system can talk to other systems, which is very important. All of us would really understand. It is how does many of the time Amazon exactly knows what is the stock available in their own warehouses, or what is the stock available at the vendor's place, or from where if you will order today till end of day, what point of time things will reach to you. This all information you are receiving because there is so many number of interfaces ongoing. This IDOC and RFC functionality made it possible, at least for the SAP's life, SAP's world. IDOC is just a full form of intermediate document. I'm not writing full because I do not have a space, but you can remember that. And RFC is more like a remote function calling. We don't have to remember this, guys. This is more for our technical friends. But this is what SAP improved. Now think in this way. SAP focused on how do I make sure by doing this, how do I make sure my users feel comfortable and my system become efficient from the front ending point of view. This is where SAP had focused in the R3 when they moved. And then third system came ECC. Now, I had started my career when I was working on R3 for one of the company. Actually, it was exactly like 4.6B version. There has been later 4.6C, 4.7, and then they moved to the ECC. But ECC, what is ECC and why they had to come back with? Because then after hearing all these things, in fact, R3 sounds good. There was no real need, I think. But no, SAP did have the reason. The full form of ECC is Enterprise Core Component, ECC, or you will see Enterprise Central Component. You would hear both the word, but you can choose whichever you like. Enterprise Core Component. So one of the question was, can I have is the systems talking to each other, like SD, FI, PP? Sailesh had probably asked that question. Are those systems talking to each other, and are they really effectively talking to each other? This is the point which was defined as part of the core component. SAP went outside and said very clearly, when you are purchasing a license, you are getting these minimal amount of modules always as a package. There is no breakup. You are not getting only SD, only finance, only this and that. It's a central component or a core component. You will get all those things. But if you want anything advanced or additional, you will have to buy it separately. Like we talk about transportation management, like we talk about EWM, extended warehouse management, or CRM or SRM, because that's not part of the core component. Now SAP evolved a bit more and came back with a very clear distinguish. This is the basic functionality and these are the advanced functionality, and you will have to separately manage and buy in the different licensing cost. So this was first thing. Did SAP made the 3-layer system to the 4-layer? No. 3-layer system continued. This as it is continued here, presentation layer, application layer, and database layer, but the focus of SAP was moved. At this point of time, already the market had moved on from the hard software system to the web-based control. Web-based systems, web-based controls, right? And that is why SAP introduced at this point of time NWBC. Now I have to say, even though I started my career in R3 and then later even I saw the ECC world for pretty long, and now we are about to go in S4HANA. NWBC, there were a very big thought process around it, but it in reality did not get adopted that well. Very few places they could force use, but not much. The full form of it was NetWeaver Business Client, and this is where you can run your SAP system more in a web-based format or web-based version. Also, this was the time, if we remember well, this was the time when already everyone had the mobiles, and that means the mobile application and application based executions of the systems, controls, transaction, and those era had started. And that is why SAP also had to step up their game, and they came back with Fiori. Fiori is application based platform where SAP started. First they designed the platform of Fiori, so they themselves can design the applications as well as third party guys can design the applications. This was the main starting point or a version or a thought process why they entered in Fiori. And this was a primitive level. I'm not saying that they were the masters of the world in applications and web client, but they started. They understood the change in the people view. And next thing came back was they declared best practices. Now, this is something where I have got quite a lot backlash in my some of the client interaction. I had used the word best practice, and so like this is the best practice. You cannot do this way or that way. And we were discussing as a consultant and clients. And first, one of the response was, "Who defined the best practices?" I am running my industry for last 30 years. I am in this company for 30 years. I am the one who has experienced this. How can you, a young guy, come to me and tell me that this is the best practices? Why did I use the word that what we are doing in SAP is the best practice? We should not do it this way or that way and that way. Because SAP also declared the core processes which are provided by the SAP as a best practices. They came back with the best practice system also. You can literally buy that best practice system that will have the very basic setup for a specific industry or specific business processes. That was called best practices system. What it did have, it had just a simple business process design and so on and so forth, but they decided to call it a best practices by pulling some core functions and core attributes in that. And because as a young consultant, I was understanding that as the best practices, I had used that, and that was like another 1 hour discussion. But okay, that's an experience. And another thing which they could do was they started focusing more and more on industry specific solution. One of the very commonly heard industry specific solution is apparel and footwear solutions. For example, AFS, Adidas, Puma, Nike, all of these guys are using this SAP AFS. Or you would have heard oil and gas, very famous. There are some special functions. So always there is a base setup is a core ECC setup, core SAP setup, but there is an additional functionalities which are very specific to those industry and probably not required by other industry, but they came back with those things, industry specific solutions. And that was the starting of more and more enhanced era of the industry specific solutions. This is what they did as part of the ECC. So now what you can realize here is at this stage, SAP focused on the architecture. It may not have visibly so many improvements if you think about, but they really started changing the world from the architecture point of view, for the SAP's point of view, as part of the ECC. They had already improved the user experience here. So where here they had focused on user experience in the R3. In the ECC, they focused on the architecture. This was more like a stepping stone before they could move to the next level, which was our S4 HANA. This is when SAP decided to move towards the S4 HANA. What does S4 HANA means? Like, why this kind of word? Many of you may have probably heard the joke, but like, S4 HANA or S4 SANA, like, like that sounds a bit different naming. But why this is the exact naming? Because the full form of S4 HANA is simplified for HANA. They did not change anything to make it a 4-layer system and this and that. They actually gave the name because of completely, entirely different reason, the HANA. But what they are referring here is HANA. They are actually referring here HANA as a database. See, one of the technology concept which at the end of the day, as an IT guys or IT companies, they always understand. You can always keep evolving your application layer. They stop application layer or a presentation layer. You keep evolving that, and as much as you want to evolve, you can. But if you really want a very strong performance, very strong system response, you have to really rely and make a control on the database system as well. The full potential of the system will only come when you master your application system as well as your database system. You have to master both. Till R3 and ECC, SAP improved their user experience. They focused on their application layer. They focused on the architecture, but they realized there is a limitation of growth here. And then they moved to the database improvement, and that's how the HANA database came into picture. 2010, they had initially came back with the HANA database. So simplified for HANA. 2010, first time they had introduced the HANA database, and at that point of time, it was just introduced as a database. Now, many of you, if you have worked around initial SAP versions till ECC, you can have any database as a background, anything. You can have Sybase, you can have Oracle, you can have many other databases. However, with S4HANA, you can have only one system, that is HANA database, nothing else. No other database is accepted the moment you move to the S4 HANA system. Why? What was the reason? Because SAP had now targeted to move from OLTP to OLTA system. Now, this is a type of system. Like, what is OLTP? Online transaction processing.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
This is what the OLTP means. And OLAP. I mixed up, sorry. OLAP, online analytics platform. Probably even processing maybe the platform, just consider. So OLTP, online transaction platform to the online analytics platform. What is the difference? Like, why these jargons? The online transaction processing, till now SAP had been a system which was being used to punch the transaction, track the information in various modules, and utilize that information later for the reporting and other analytical point of view within the BW system, business warehouse system. This was the main purpose. We were utilizing, doing the reporting, like, no, don't take me wrong. There were ECC's SAP, like system had the option of reporting. If I need, how many sales order have I created today? How many purchase order have I created today? Do I have to create some invoices? How much is the invoice value today? System always had those information available. So it's not that reporting was not there, but if you need to fetch the information all across the system to make some decisions or some automatic functionality, your system will literally die down. One of the common complaint to the basis guy, um, hey, this system is so slow, what has happened, what are you guys doing? At least in joking way, we used to be teasing our friends, but um, this was the reason, right? Because SAP was always an OLTP system, online transaction platform. It was never an analytics systems in the ECC or it's in a core setup itself. With S4 HANA, now it is OLAP AP as well. Why? Because with the HANA database and in-memory database concept, the data fetching, data processing, and responding has become pretty fast, very efficient. That is why I had said, yes, performance was improved here, but I would not compare it with the S4 HANA's performance, because now your application layer is simplified and adopted specifically to work well with your database. And you have the most fine-tuned database as well. At least that's what SAP is claiming. And that's how you have the efficient system. Also, one of the another differences which happened was additional differences happened was um, architecture point of view itself. Now, earlier, when the till ECC, there was an architecture, and you guys, I had mentioned TM and EWM, right? These are the special systems. And I said, generally, you have an option available to have this particular system as an independent system. This was one of my comment, that you can have the Oracle system available as a main ERP, and you can do the transportation management by the SAP's transportation management system. And I'm talking about logistics or a warehouse management independently. Yes, but and why initially it was always separate? Initially, SAP had always came back with TM and EWM separate, because our ECC system was not capable at that time to handle embedded EWM or embedded TM. System was not capable to run complex heuristic logic or kind of, APO kind of logics. System was not capable as part of the ECC. With the improvement here, now you can have TM, EWM, or a partially APO functionalities available as an embedded functions. So SAP improved step by step, architecture by architecture. They planned, they targeted customer, they knew whom to approach and why to manage. Okay, Faisal has asked one question, and that's a good question. What does embedded means compared to the complete independent thing? And I would explain. See, simple. If this is my ECC system, then I had to have TM as an independent server, its own database, its own independent system. I had to buy it completely separately, and these two systems will talk to each other for the integration point of view. I can create my sales order. I want to deliver, I will create my delivery information. But my all transportation information, like my truck, my driver information, other conditions, and everything is in TM system, for example, because I may be a part of DHL itself. Imagine DHL itself in this case. So I had to send this delivery information to this system so they can allocate the transportation, plan it, complete it, and then give me a confirmation back. So it was two different systems from a server point of view, from a system point of view. When I say embedded, I'm saying now you have S4 HANA system, and you have kind of a light version inside the S4 HANA itself for the TM or for the EWM. You are directly accessing on the same server, on the like similar database, without having insane amount of performance issues and all those things, multiple system functionalities. And that is what the embedded means. Now, our main focus is obviously sales and distribution as part of this training, but it is nice to know, what is the difference between separate, complete independent system and our embedded system. Okay, so I'll take a pause here. And if you guys have any other question, I would like to answer the same. Any question, guys? Okay, definitely either I'm explaining very well or there is no more questions, and that's totally fine. Let me look at the timing. It's almost 1 hour and 20 minutes. So as I'm going to take another, okay, there seems to be a question probably, then I'll address. Which is better, embedded or independent? That depends on your need, purpose, and so on and so forth. How complex your business is and other things. How much transaction load you will have. If I'm implementing that for the Maersk or DHL, who are dedicated logistics systems, probably I would really consider the independent system. But if I'm a Unilever and I need to implement a, transportation management system, probably it's not my main business. It's just a supporting function for my business to run. And probably I would go with an embedded, because we should always consider, when number of systems are too many, separate database, separate servers are there, you have to have that many number of database administrator managing the same, and so on and so forth. Yes, so there was a question, there was a point, which is better, and which is better, embedded or independent. That's what I had explained earlier. And just now I explained, okay, embedded and independent point.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Okay, there is one comment, not a question. It's pretty new. We just understood 50%, whatever you taught till now. Yes, possible. And don't worry about it, because this is more an introduction. This is more a wider idea, or a kind of a platform building. But many of the words which I have used till now, and if you have not understood those things, don't worry. Your this OLAP, OLTP, these are not your interview questions. These are not the certification questions as well. This is more like gaining an insight, an idea, and strategy of the tool, which probably we may end up spending our career with. And that's what we are trying to learn. You don't have to become master, and you don't have to mug up every word which I have said till now. Yes, important part will be when we are talking about sales and distribution processes. When we will talk about why there is a sales order, why there is a delivery, or why there is a billing, that would be the interesting part. And that's where the important part will come. And if you would not understand those part, I would be all happy to repeat myself 2, 3, 4 times. Or you can hear the videos later, and you will be able to manage it. And still, if you would have the more open questions, we will address it. So don't get worried if you could not hear, or you could not understand some of the points which I try to mention. It took me also 12, 13 years to understand some of things. So it's not a competition, don't worry. Okay. Uh, there is one of the question, can you please throw some light on SAP HR? I have to be fair with you. I'm more an SD consultant and more a functional consultant, and not an SAP HR consultant. I do not. Okay, as there is always a modules interact with each other, right? We do work with the customer, our own sales employees and so on and so forth. But that's a very minimal topic. I would recommend you approach to the SastraGeek team, and they can find out if they are going to come up with any dedicated course of SAP HR or anything like that. I would not have that much information. If client, so one of the question, which was a very interesting question, which Faisal has mentioned, and I would address, but this would be the last question before we take break. What will happen if your client tells you, I'm happy with my ECC. I am working on one system and I'm very happy. I don't want S4HANA, because first thing, S4HANA is a costly system, by the way, guys. You have to do the new implementation. Yeah, we are going to talk about it in our project phases. You have to manage the complete new database. That means you have to find out the very dedicated database administrator expert your coding and so on and so forth will be changed. So it's a fair question for a mid-scale company. I'm happy with my ECC. I don't want to move to the S4 HANA. Uh, Actually, interesting part is SAP has kind of tied people's hand. It's like you are in a habit for so many years. Like SAP is surviving in many multinational companies from the 1972. As I had exactly mentioned, 1972 SAP is surviving. And that means they are there for 50, 60, 50, 55 years in many of the companies. It's not easy to move from one system to another system ever, generally, one thing. So they are stick with the SAP, many of the company. Now, the second level is, even if you say that you are okay with ECC, in 2025, SAP has already officially declared ECC support will be stopped. They will not support the system if you are not new system. This is what they declared. What does that mean? You cannot use your system for running the transaction? No, it's not like that. It's your system. You have server, you have license, you will be using it. Only thing is, if you have a problem, so as a manufacturer of that software system, an owner of that software system design, SAP will not support you. That's what it means. SAP will stop their support to you. Any new functionality, new upgrade, anything will come up, you will not get benefit out of it. That's what they mean. Second thing, they are still keeping their leg in the game, because probably it was not entirely clear, but either 2027 or 2030, they are ready to support based on paid basis. But you need to understand, SAP's consultants are pretty costly consultant, very costly consultant for a client. It wouldn't be a joke if you want to go for the paid services for some more years. Probably it would be still a logical or beneficial decision to move to the new system, just by comparing the maintenance cost of your existing system. If your system is not enough stable, though I wouldn't be surprised, make sure that you learn one core process, at the least one core process. That means one of the core module, any one of SD, MM, PPQM, or finance controlling, but at least learn one core module. This is very important point. That sounds like a simple generic topic, but that is very, very, very important point. Why it is important? It is important because if you have a core modules does not sunset, the names will be changed. Names may be changed, but core modules will not just go away because the processes are there. They are called core modules because of the reason. And so this is something which you need to definitely consider in your mind. You can always go ahead and learn a complete new function or functionality. I can give you an example. You can go ahead and learn the SAP RAR, revenue accounting and reporting, right? Very new module. You can learn it. If you have a finance background, you can learn it. But the success of that particular module's knowledge will really depend on which another core module you know it, because ultimately you are going to interact with the core functions. You are going to interact with the sales. You are going to interact with the finance, controlling, purchasing, logistics guys. And if you understand one of the core module, it is more easier to interact and step up your knowledge. So I would really keep it up to you. See in your environment which systems are being used in your environment around your process industry. Choose the topic, training, or a certificate which compensate or adds the value in your current job, and then you can move on further for the better opportunity.